Okay, happy Friday. Little quick special message today. I'm putting out yesterday's radio show that I did on Revolution.radio. It was kind of a rant, so be prepared. That's probably going to make this not for kids. I did a little bit too much swearing in it, and just mad at things, I guess. That's why it's called Coffee Rant with Dan, and not Evening Champagne with Dan. It's called Coffee Rants for a reason. I was pissed yesterday. Rightfully so. I'm a little calmer today. However, I wanted to do a quick video to attach to that, to put out something that I'm seeing on Facebook, and I want to warn my fellow veterans of something. I'm seeing OIF, OEF groups join this group, blah, blah, brand new groups being sponsored by Facebook, it's allowing the sponsoring of this. Other stuff, veterans get free phones, veterans get free shirts. You just got to fill out all your information and give it to them to get the free shit. Well, if I was going to use common sense of predictive analysis from the last 20 years, specifically the quickening in the last 5 years in the direction things are going, hey veterans, they want to know where you're at and who you are for a reason. Don't take their free shit. That's just my opinion, okay, based on predictive analysis. Don't take their free shit. And somebody might say, well, they know where you're at anyway. Okay, right, all of them do. Sure they do. They all know where we're all at. Yes, absolutely. So go ahead and get your free shit. Don't worry about your families either. I wouldn't do it. That's just my personal opinion. And you can see I'm rocking my Missing in Action hat. I love it. POW. I'm all about why we joined and all about protecting and serving, and that part of the oath, and that part of the oath only. Protecting and serving. Upholding the Constitution. I'm all about that. Even though that was a deal that was made, that we were entered into way before any of us were even born. I don't really need something scribbled down on a piece of paper for me to know what our human rights are, which is the pursuit of happiness and freedom. But with that said, don't be stupid. They want to know where you're at. Don't take their free shit. That's just, I'll just leave it at that. Anyone watching this for the first time, I'm a former United States Marine, and Semper Fi means always faithful. I've changed that to mean Semper Fi, always faithful to humanity. All right, peace out.
Upon the horizon, it's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Homer, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
And welcome to Thursday Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am Dan, the Spiritual Anarchist. Today's date is already December 4th in the year of all of us, 2025. And, oh man, I got so many things I could be talking about. I didn't really plan this at all. I just got up this morning after watching all the violence in the news and all the fear porn that's out there and all the real stuff that's out there. And the only thing that I can tell you is, folks, there is no political solution to this. The only solution is going to be a spiritual one, and that's adhering to natural law. That's not doing unto others that which you want done unto you. And this isn't like a religious show. I probably will have some rants today. But before I get into that, I'm also going to continue reading from Violence and Ego. I'm going to probably start that much earlier this week because the last couple of weeks I've gotten so involved in what I was talking about that I don't think I got to that fast enough. And there's not a lot left, but the stuff that I have to cover about active threats might help you out because you might find yourself in one. And here's something else to understand. You really got to understand this is it doesn't matter if it's a Manchurian candidate, an MK Ultra, mind-controlled person. It doesn't matter if it is a false flag being done or orchestrated by some government operative or some, stooge that they're using, or if it's just Fred down the street who lost his shit and decided he's going to go do a bunch of stuff. It won't matter in the moment. Violence is violence. So when bullets start flying, keeping yourself safe is the number one priority. You can worry about what the news calls it later on. Just like with the things that are coming. Okay, Scuttlebutt is December 19th. 3-1 Atlas, this thing that they're ascribing all different types of theories to, supposed to be closest to the Earth. They've also got the sun. They're putting out all this stuff about the sun. The solar flares are like, they're worsening. They're getting bigger. It could interrupt the power grid and all this other stuff. Or it could be an EMP. Well, when the electricity is actually out, it doesn't matter what it was. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit of that today because people get caught up in the minutia and they don't deal with the what is. And I was having a conversation with somebody who thinks that we need to have both factions of the government that we have because we have to have balance. There is no balance. They're working perfectly together to do exactly what it is they want to do, and that is institute a new world government, control how we procreate, and really control every aspect of your life. If any of it was voluntary, I wouldn't have a fucking problem with it, but it's not voluntary. I'm going to get into anger a little bit later. And if I get angry, I'm not trying to sound like anybody. This is me. And I think more people should get righteously angry. I'm going to talk about that a little bit too later on. Hold on a second. It can't be talked about enough, to be honest with you. But before I do that, I'm going to get into announcements. Again, February 21st and 22nd is Freedom Under Natural Law. That's Funnel 5. February 21st and 22nd. I'll be doing a 1-hour presentation titled The Hammer and the Flame, and how I rose from darkness, kind of forged myself through adversity, and quit some pretty bad habits, lost weight, got in shape, and kind of corrected the direction my life was going in as an order follower. There's too many contradictions in it. And this is why a lot of cops find themselves getting sick or having shorter lifespans than what they're supposed to have. When I went through the police academy when I was 25 years old, going on 26, they said the average lifespan of a police officer back then, this was 1997, was 57 years old. And at the time, I'm like, well, I guess I'll be all right. I'm about halfway through now. And yeah, well, now that I'm 54, 57 doesn't sound all that old to me. So, yeah, I'm glad I got out of that nonsensical, contradicting employment, and I'm going to get into that in Funnel 5 on why we get into this. Many people, I'd like to still be optimistic and say more than 50% get into law enforcement because that's how we've been programmed since we were kids, to serve, to protect and serve. And when we took the oath, the part that says protect and serve the Constitution, and to not follow any immoral orders that should be given to us by a superior. These are the things that you take the oath for, but then you get on the job and you find out, oh, you're not allowed to enforce that with these people, but you have to enforce this with those people. So they pretty much tell you what the fuck to do. Now, it's way worse with the government. On the local departments, it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad at all compared to the government. With the government, it was exactly that. So what I'm seeing, having worked in a federal medical facility in a security law enforcement capacity, and seeing what I'm seeing in the world today with doctors just following whatever medical protocols they're told from above, and most of those protocols are killing and murdering innocent people, and their misdiagnoses and their mistakes they've made with medications kill more people in this country than anyone else anyway, as far as anything goes. Way more than what cops do. Okay, I'm not saying either one's good, but when you work in a facility and you've got all this stuff going on where you're being told what you should enforce, what you can't enforce, they take away all your discretion. And when I worked for the state given discretion that we had, a lot of us would use it, but I ended up getting in trouble for not writing enough tickets. I wasn't into all that shit. I just wasn't. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of that. And I know the rock and hard place that cops are stuck in right now. The ones you got to worry about is really the ones at the very end of their tour. They want to just get the hell out of it. They've already been through everything you could possibly think of, and they're marking the days till they can just get the hell out. Not many cops I know like their job. I'm speaking righteous stuff here. The beginners you got to worry about a little bit, because the brand new guys, the rookies, they're going to be the ones that are going to zealously enforce whatever they're told. And they're still trying to, make a name for themselves. There's still a lot of ego involved with the young guys, especially the guys who are 21, 22 years old. They're barely out of teenhood, and they're already being given that stuff. And the same thing with the military. Look what they're doing with their military right now. They've purposely spread our military thin. I can tell you from personal experience, they will throw you under the bus when you get back. Good luck getting benefits. You will fight tooth and nail to get them. Wait times are notorious for medical appointments. Responders in 9/11 all had work-related cancer from all that stuff flying around in the air during 9/11, which I now know was a false flag psyop and known about. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. I consider myself a conspiracy analyst. But I'm going to be getting into that at this event. You can find the bulk of my work at YouTube at Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR 5907. That's at Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR 5907, and also at the OneGreatWorkNetwork.com /Dan-Arnold. And I've got that stuff up on slides because I'm also simultaneously filming this OBS. Hold on a second. So I'm kind of just rambling a little bit this morning. It's really cold here in Ohio, and I'm kind of in the snow belt, so it's what I like to call fine Norse weather. Very cold. And the scuttlebutt is this is going to be a worse winter than usual. Not a whole lot more snow in a lot of areas, but in a few, including the one I am, a lot more snow. But on the whole, it's going to be average or slightly above average, not bad, but the cold is going to be much colder in many places, and this is one of them. Look at, go to, you can just Google Farmer's Almanac and Google the 2025-26 winter outlook, and you can see on that we're going to have a colder temperatures than usual. Now they're putting it up all over the Weather Channel and all that stuff too. I take that with a grain of salt because a lot of stuff they put on the Weather Channel is to incite you into some level of fear. They kind of overdo it sometimes, I think, and they're not as accurate as they seem. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff, so be prepared. Be prepared for a very cold winter. Again, is it DARPA controlling the weather? Is weather been weaponized? Let me see something here. I keep hearing somebody come in and out. Is weather weaponized? Well, I don't know. I really don't know. When it's 2 or 3 degrees below zero with a wind chill factor of 20 below zero, and it's windy and it's really snowy, and the electricity goes out, and will it matter if it was an EMP done by our own government, some other government, a sun flare, solar flare that caused it? The bottom line is the electricity will be out, and it'll be super cold. Now, when that kind of thing happens, the people who are going to suffer are going to be homeless people, extremely young people, and the elderly. So they are more susceptible to being a victim of, who keeps coming in and out here, to being a victim of that kind of weather. So I highly recommend having propane heaters. If you live someplace that allows you to have a wood stove, have a wood stove. Hopefully you do. That can help warm things up. If you got 2 regular-sized red bricks and take a candle, I got a triple candle actually, and a big huge candle, and you get a clay pot. You light the candle, put the clay pot over the candle on the 2 bricks, let that sit there for a while. All of a sudden that clay pot is going to get pretty hot. It's going to radiate heat for you. So that's something to do. Have extra candles. Have extra batteries. Something I got plugs into the lighter of the Jeep of Destiny, and the other end is a plug, and it's a thing that you can plug in stuff and run some electricity that way inside the house. I have an extension cord and a power surge protector. I haven't ran a whole lot off of it yet. I'll be interested to see what its limits are, but at least I'll know I'll be able to do something like that. Also, they have little small generators that you can buy, charge them up, and they'll run a computer. They'll run quite a bit, actually. It won't run small heaters because of the heat element is too much. You got to look at what the wattage is. I think mine's only 165 watts. It doesn't really run a lot of stuff, especially if it's something that's pulling flame. But this is how you want to be prepared. I can't say this enough. Have 8 to 10 propane tanks, the 35-pound tanks filled. Have the little 1-pound tanks filled with camper heaters. Just be able to keep yourself warm. Dress in layers. Get sleeping blankets. People are going to have to maybe team up to survive. It could get that bad. But I bet you can survive without anybody from the government coming in to save you if you're prepared. And I wouldn't count on anyone coming in to save you. See, back during COVID 1984, okay, the people who had the flu, they threw into nursing homes. So the flu went rampant in nursing homes. COVID itself, which was a cold, went rampant in nursing homes. Well, you put sick people into nursing homes, the elderly who already got compromised immune systems, that's why they're in nursing homes. There was a lot of deaths in nursing homes. I considered it personally geriatric genocide. Over 20 years of war, they can't afford to pay back their Social Security. They don't want to pay out the benefits.
So that's just me being very jaded from what I've seen. So the bottom line is what I'm getting at. Doesn't matter what the cause of A, B, or C, or D are. Once it's cold, it won't matter if it's DARPA or if it's nature. Once the lights go out, it won't matter if it's a solar flare or an EMP. Okay? We live in a world where our puppeticians are being controlled by like 12 families, and we're cattle to them. Understand this, and you will gain great wisdom. Okay? They don't care about us. They don't mean us well. Okay? There's this thing called Agenda 21. Look it up. They claim that anarchy is some crazy, chaotic thing, yet we don't have any anarchy in this world anywhere. Maybe some island someplace. I don't see voluntarists working together without being murdered by their government. Democide is the largest causes of unnatural death. Democide is death by your government. Death by government. So, if you ask somebody, do you trust other people? By and large, the answer to that question is usually no. Do I trust many people will do the right thing? Regular, everyday citizens? Yeah, I think more will do the right thing than most people would think. But you're not wrong if you don't 100% trust other human beings to do the right thing. They can be swayed. We all can be swayed by many different things. And many are swayed by fear, or they're swayed by greed. So we can't trust them. So if you can't trust them, why do we put them in charge of us? If man can't be trusted, then why is man ruling other men? We are living in a very chaotic world. Complete war and chaos. And this is because we're being governed. Could you imagine if we weren't governed and we were living our day-to-day life and everybody just did what they needed to do to add their skill to the village? People would help each other. Everything would still work just fine. In fact, it probably would work a lot better without all the red tape to get something done. I hear people arguing over, are we living in a dome? A naval intelligence officer just was being interviewed. He's like, first off, there is no outer space, blah, blah, blah. He's talking about all this stuff. We live in a dome, and then we are connected to other types of things, but it isn't in outer space. Okay, I've been seeing a lot of this stuff lately. I personally don't care. I don't care where we're living. I don't care what the shape of it is. I don't care if it's I don't care if we are a simulation. It doesn't matter. What matters is we are all enslaved. To one degree or another. They've just gotten really good at euphemizing their version of slavery. They don't like to just call it ball and chain chattel slavery, just like they don't like to call murder murder. When it's the government doing it, they're using righteous force for your protection. So for safety, this is for your safety, we have to murder you. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I'm just not in a good mood today. I don't know what it is. But it doesn't matter. Does it matter, like, after all the stuff is over? Yeah, then we can talk about it so that way we know not to trust what the hell they're telling us, because they always lie. How do you know the news is lying? How do you know a politician is lying? Because you see their gums going up and down and their lips are moving. That's how you know they're lying. But at the end of the day, when they create violence, violence is violence, cold is cold, and survival is survival. So we're coming up on that time where You have to worry about that going on into 3D, but not the long term. That's zooming in. Zooming out. Freedom under natural law, February 21st, 22nd. Natural law is karmic law. It is the law of human behavior. What we put out in the aggregate is what we get back. I've also heard it called the law of freedom. The more moral and a society is, the freer that society will be. The more immoral that society is, the more enslaved that society will be. I've said this before, I am no paragon of morality, but I kind of am. Because despite my deficiencies and despite failing gloriously at not living up to my superego, I do not initiate harm to other beings and I do not steal. So under God's natural law, anything you do that does not harm another, detract from their being, their safety in some way, or steal from them is your right to do. It's your right to have a voluntary interaction with another adult under natural law for literally anything. As long as it's voluntary and it's consensual, adults can do whatever dealing they want to do under God's natural law. Everything else that's put into place that's considered a crime is the arbitrary whim of some legislator, usually based on money. How many people died of opioids? They didn't care. But go out and deal some type of pain medication with another person, and they want to call it a crime. And let's just get away from the really heavy narcotics, the bad stuff that they put on, Miami Vice and stuff, cocaine and, crack, just marijuana. They can't make up their mind if they want to make it legal or illegal. If you want to know if something's immoral, here's a good way of putting it. If every state in the United States says it's a crime, like aggravated murder, premeditated murder, every state says it's a crime. Well, that is immoral. But if in one state you're allowed to do this, but in the next state, past this imaginary line, you're not, well, that's probably moral to do, like smoking a green leaf or dealing a green leaf. I worked in a prison. I seen guys in there that did not belong in there at all for a lot of things. And drugs was the biggest one. Let me tell you something. Back in my 20s, and it was mostly through my 20s, up until about 30, all the corrections officers and staff, we would always say, who the worst inmates are? It's those punk drug dealers. They're the worst inmates, blah, 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 blah. But the hitmen and the murderers, they're usually the most quietest, blah, blah, blah. They're very respectful. But yeah, they are. That's because they're sociopathic, and they'll eat you, okay? The reason why the drug dealers were so hard to deal with and so angry is because if they were dealing in this thing to another consensual adult, and it was a consensual act, they somehow, without being told, intrinsically know they really haven't done anything wrong or immoral under God's law. That's why they were so aggravated. You got the same thing. Pharmaceutical companies are they're doing it legally. They got a license. We need a license for literally everything. You can't even catch water in your own backyard if you don't have a license for it. In some places, it's outlawed. Fucking rain is illegal. Really? Just many people don't listen to it, but the fact that those laws are on the books, it's nuts. We're not free. This becomes more and more painfully obvious to me every single day. Okay, we're being mind controlled. There's a small amount of us who are woke up and know that there is no political solution to this. We know that both sides of the fence, both wings, are connected to the same ravenous bird of prey that doesn't care about any of us. Politics is a dialectic. It's a Hegelian dialectic just to keep the rabble fighting one another while they do what it is they want to do. So that's what I got to say about that with what's coming up. Be prepared for a bad winter. Be prepared to lend a hand. Remember, what you put out is what you get back. So if you don't harm anybody, you're being a moral person. But if you don't help somebody, are you really being a good person? I think baseline morality is what this whole world needs to elevate in consciousness. Within 2 or 3 years, if everyone had baseline morality, we'd have world peace. But that's just where it starts. Becoming a higher conscious good person. You care about others. You'll do for others because then they'll do for you. That's how the universe works. What you put out is what you get back. That's even if you could just send good thoughts to somebody. Your thoughts, your intentions have a resonance. That's why when you're telling the truth or you say something, it resonates. That resonance also, natural law is affected by that as well. Just not to a major degree. Actions is the main thing. You take an immoral action to initiate harm, it's going to come back to you. And it might not come back right away, but it eventually will. This is why the powers that should not be get others to do their dirty work. This is why they get order followers to do their dirty. Because they don't care if the order followers that they're going to throw under the bus at the earliest convenience to save their ass incur the negative consequential effects of their actions, which, by the way, being thrown under the bus is probably karma. If you really think about it, guys. They're going to be putting you in between a rock and a hard place in that line of work. We have an electronic night of the long knives going on. Look up Operation Hummingbird. Okay? It happened in Nazi Germany when they got rid of the quote-unquote good cops who weren't going to follow along with what the new ones did, and they put in the SS, the Gestapo, who are more brutal than the German army. Just like the Israeli police look like they're more brutal than the IDF. We cannot allow this type of violence to go on in the world unchecked and think it's not going to affect us. We're giving them our consent with our inaction. We're giving them consent, implied consent, every time they take a right away and we let them. You give an inch, they'll take a foot. Give a foot, they're going to take a yard. Take a yard, they're going to take a mile. Don't give up rights. Once you give them up, you're not going to get them back because they don't think you have rights. They think you're supposed to listen to what they say. No human being under God's creation, God with a capital G, has a right to rule over others. Okay, the 5-year-old in me says, you're not my fucking boss. With that said, I'm not going to make my stand over something stupid. I don't want to be murdered. I want to live. We do what we need to do to survive. I've ran into cops out there that are very helpful. They do good stuff. And they really are doing the best job they can within a corrupt system that they know is corrupt. So maybe I'm being an idealist, but as long as we're supporting a corrupt system, we got our hands dirty, no matter how good-hearted we try to be. And throughout every single war in history, there's always that soldier somewheres that let innocent people go or wouldn't shoot them. But that isn't the norm. That's maybe 5% of the time. The other 95% of the time, I don't know what makes them think it's okay to put some of the pictures that I've seen where you have a German soldier holding a Mauser or 7.62 to the back of someone's head, a woman's head, and blowing her brains out. Like, what did she do? How do they justify that? Are these even human fucking beings? Or are they just soulless creatures that were created? That's what I want to know. Or do they find the most sociopathic? Are they trained to the point of psychopathy? So much trauma-based mind control that they actually get secondary psychopathy and they're not bothered by the pain of others anymore. Okay? When I went into the Marine Corps, boot camp, they break you down and then they build you back up. They get you real tired. It makes it easier for you to be controlled. Again, you're told you're going in to serve your country and keep your country safe. I can't think of one war that our military has been in my lifetime that kept me safe. It usually had something to do with money for old rich guys. The last moral war, in my opinion, was World War II. And what we got going on now, they're orchestrating World War III on purpose. I won't even get into the tactics of everything. But that's my thing on natural law. Hold on a second. What I want to talk about, which was part of the winter thing, was also crying wolf. They cry wolf so much. They throw so much. The boy that cried wolf, he cried wolf several times. They'd all go there. There'd be no wolves. And finally, one of them times, he cried wolf. No one listened to him. That's the time there was a whole pack of wolves, hungry ones. So what we get on the news is they desensitize you. Okay, they'll first they sensitize you to their material, then they'll desensitize you to their fear porn so much that you're not going to pay attention when a real threat is there. And I think this winter coming up is going to be a real threat. I think military people going to certain cities is a real threat. These are future smart cities. Put 2 and 2 together. The right and left are working together. You should put 2 and 2 together. By the way, it equals 4. Just in case you didn't know. Some people think there's 5 different genders when there's only 2. So if you're one of those people who think there's 5 genders, just know that 2 and 2 equals 4. Last time I checked. I dread it. I was a Marine. I like to eat crayons and stuff, but it's simple math I can do. So just be careful. The crying wolf, I think we are in for some rough times. So listen to the warnings and don't concern yourself over what the cause of it is. If they're saying, hey, we could have grid outages because of solar activity, does it really matter if it's an EMP? Just understand, expect the power outage and prepare yourself appropriately. Okay? That's with crying wolf. And that brings me to something else that I really wanted to talk about, is the problem I see with our mind-controlled school facilities creating learned helplessness and a bunch of people who want to be the victim. They want to play the victim because if they're the victim, then they're the ones who are right in a situation. Because being right and correct is the most important thing, so therefore being the victim. But here's what I find funny, is they're indignant with their victimhood. See, I'm victimized, but I'm still a tough guy. I'm angry and victimized. Motherfucker, if you're angry, you haven't been victimized. If you're sitting back wanting someone else to take action for you, you haven't been victimized. If you're talking a bunch of, I'm going to go to street here for a second. If you're talking a bunch of shit to a man, and it goes to a agreed upon fight, or you decide to take a poke at somebody and they whoop your ass and you call the police, you just lost your man card. So be as victimized and indignant and victim acting as you want when you want to play the victim. Playing the victim doesn't do nothing when there's real victims out there. Believe me, after 27 years of working in the kind of jobs I had, I've seen real victims. And you ain't it. What they taught the millennials, what they're teaching some of Generation Z, they want learned helplessness on purpose, so the only ones that are allowed to use force are guys wearing blue suits with shiny things on their chest. They're the ones who have a monopoly on force. You're not allowed to, and if you defend yourself, you're going to get charged, and you defend a family member, you're going to get charged. Remember, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to get murdered so they can investigate your death afterwards. That's how the laws are set up. And they highly favor the bad guys. highly favor the bad guys because the bad guys know how to then play the victim. Don't play the victim. Don't sell wolf tickets because every once in a while when you're selling a wolf ticket, someone's going to take you up on it and they're going to buy it. If that's the case, you shouldn't have been selling it in the first place. Any of my street people know what I'm talking about. Don't sell wolf tickets unless you're ready to go to the play with them. Okay? Otherwise, don't do it. And most certainly, don't lose your man card by calling the police afterwards. I worked with a cop once, and I used to have to keep him out of trouble when we were off duty. He'd get drunk, and he'd get this big S on his chest and want to start fights. I'm like, dude, stop doing that. Okay? He ain't a cop no more. He didn't last for long. But the point of the thing is he'd get into a big argument with somebody, and he'd want to start a fight with them, but then the guy didn't back down. He'd want to flip out his tin and say, hey, I'm a cop, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you lost your man card. Turn it in, along with your badge. Because if you're going to act like that and somebody calls you on it, you need to go out to the parking lot with them. And I'm not a violent person. Not in the least bit. I'm very spiritual. But being spiritual doesn't mean I'm a conscientious objector, that I won't defend myself or others. What I won't do is I won't go to war for some old guy. So if you are a conscientious objector who's been drafted and you got the balls to not go to war, you have more courage than anyone else. You have moral courage. And this is coming from a guy who was a Marine and coming from a guy who was a cop and worked in a prison and all kinds of other things. I just see way too many people who want to have it both ways. They want to be a victim and they want to be a tough guy. You're going to find out in life, you're going to have a chance to be both. And you probably will be both. For real both. I've been a real victim. I got shot. I wasn't trying to act tough. It sucked. I'm allergic to bullets. I got jumped by 9-10 guys at one point in time. I was a victim. I got the crap beat out of me, unconscious. It's kind of a funny story. And the guy that was helping me up and carrying me down the street as we were going, I was started coming back to. I looked over at him. This is the funny story. I was dating who would become my first ex-wife. We were childhood sweethearts. Okay, this fight occurred. Guy left, came back, and I had defended myself back then. This was like when I was like 18, right before I went in the Marines, or 19. And there was like 9-10 people, and I was stupid, and I stayed. So I talk about some of the egoic mistakes that I made. And they come at me one at a time like they do in the Kung Fu movies, and I got beat unconscious. And if we were sitting around a fire, I could really get into this story. But without getting far into it, a guy came out and scared them all off. I guess he had a gun, scared them all away. I didn't ever see the gun, actually. He then helped me up, and he was like my girlfriend's sort of her adopted dad, kind of, even though he lived a couple houses down. He took care of them. They were like family. And he's like, oh, they're a big guy, because I almost fell down. And he's holding me up and carrying me, and I started like shaking it all off. I looked over at him. I was like, I showed them, didn't I? And he just started like from that point on, I could do no wrong in this guy's, in his eyes. Okay. But that was me being a real victim. I didn't feel tough. So you can't act all indignant as a victim when you weren't really a victim. This victim mentality that's been developed is made to breed inaction. The same thing with all the stuff I see with New Age spirituality on the chosen one. The chosen one. If you're a chosen one, blah, blah, blah. If you're a chosen one, blah, 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 blah. What the hell is a chosen one? If you're not careful this winter, there's going to be a few frozen ones, but what the hell is a chosen one? I think that's another stand-down operation. You're a chosen one, so you're waiting for what? Nothing but stand-down operations. There's no such thing as a chosen one. So to me, that's crying wolf. That's selling wolf tickets. That's trying to be tough when you're acting like a victim for pretend, but you never really were a victim. You just understand through your mind-controlled facility that you went to for 12 years, for 18 years or whatever, 12 years actually, to be taught learned helplessness, to always get an authority person to come handle your problem. So what you've breeded is, in our society, is a bunch of passive-aggressive pussies excuse my language, and people who want to play the victim. Listen, quit playing the victim and start admitting you're wrong sometimes. Admit when you're wrong. If more people could say those words, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And this is the more spiritual part of me coming out. If you can say those words, hey man, or you just 5 words, I was wrong, I'm sorry, and mean it. Or you find out something like, oh wow, I was wrong. Man, whew. You know, I see a lot of people that voted, and they're more moderate voters. They voted for Trump, but now they see they were wrong, and they're not on the Trump train no more. But there's still those diehard ones that are. They can't accept. The same thing with the left. It's like team sports. You pick your team, and you ride or die with them. Quit depending on these people to do anything for you. They're not going to. I'm not saying there aren't good people trying to do the best job that they can within this corrupt system, but it's a corrupt system. The very premise that some human beings can rule others and the ones who are ruled have to listen, or else they're going to get assaulted, kidnapped, held hostage, murdered, whatever. The smallest offense, I can tell you this as a cop, the smallest offense of disorderly conduct or something can lead to deadly force because you're not following their directions or their orders. And it often does. So, with that said, let me get off this thing. I should have. This has been a rant actually. For anyone that I offended, if I used too much bad language today, I don't apologize. I think we need more real talk and less $5 words being thrown around out there. You're not really smart if you're using a bunch of $5 words and people are left confused. Okay? Sometimes you have to speak in a way where you're speaking to everybody. I've done presentations to doctors for doctors. I've used $5 words. I've been in court, and you most certainly can't use that language in court. Maybe next show what I'll do is I'll come on here and I will purposely not use one profane word and show you that I have a pretty decent vocabulary. I don't have to swear sometimes. But when I get angry, it just comes out. And there's nothing wrong, ladies, with men getting angry. We need more righteously angered men in this country. Not automatons who are just like, well, I'm going to speak in such a way where you don't really know what I'm saying, but at least I'm calm. And, that's not really a good thing to be doing, because what we might have to do when we got all this going on, it'd be better to... And they don't say shit. Maybe they're afraid they're not going to get a date. I'm not sure what it is. I don't get it. There's nothing wrong with getting a little mad. You shouldn't stay that way. It's unhealthy for you. But if you keep it all in, that ain't healthy for you either. Everything's about balance, man. So just be balanced with the stuff. But anyways, let me see. Okay, there was a following video that I talked about. So I'm not going to I don't even need to read the book. If you want to buy the book Violence and Ego, buy the book Violence and Ego. It's available on Amazon. It's a good book. I've been plugging it lately because I went a lot of years. I mean, it got published in 2016, 2017, 17. And I went a lot of years without really giving them, just gave them away. I used to go run a range, and I'd sell them cheap, $5-10. And I didn't make a lot of money. I gave them all away. So I don't necessarily have to read this to tell you. If you find yourself in an act of threat, say you're in a mall, someplace, grocery store, and you make it to a hiding. First off, you should seek escape. If you're calm enough and trained enough to get a description of the person, that's a bonus. When you call the police, let's just say you are armed, and you're not going to engage them unless they come in your direction. If they start coming towards you, where you decide you're going to put down this threat and engage them. This is a very important. I'm not going to get into the tactics of it. I'm not going to get into should you or shouldn't you. Only you will know what to do in the situation when you're in it. I can't tell you, well, this is what you need to do. if I was doing this, blah, blah, blah. No, it's bullshit. Only you are going to know if you want to or not want to, based on all the totality of the stimulus that you're actually there observing. But if you're on the phone with the police, the dispatcher may want to keep you on as long as possible. You're in an active threat environment. You may not be able to stay on that long. So you want to give them the most pertinent information, the location, description of the shooter, and what kind of gun. Is it a rifle? Is it a pistol? Is it some kind of rifle? Is there more than one shooter? This is quick information. You let them know that you're a CCW holder. You are armed with a pistol. You're right now hiding. And it's real important that if I have to engage him for self-defense, I will. Just so you know, I'm 5'11", 220 pounds. I'm wearing a black T-shirt and a khaki pair of pants, black boots. I'm white. Up, gotta go. That information is important because that's what they're going to relay to the responding officers. Should you put the threat down? Stay backed away from it. If the police are arriving, don't be pointing a gun at somebody. You could be a hero. You just saved everybody in there. But they arrive to an active threat shooting and they see you, the hero, pointing a gun at somebody. They don't know that you're the hero. They're going to shoot you dead. So giving a description of yourself is very important. And then at the most safest time you can, actually put your gun back in its holster. Now, I probably wouldn't put it all the way in the holster. I'd probably retreat to a place where I can put it at the low gun ready, point it in a safe direction, and just observe the area if I was stuck in the store and couldn't get out. But you don't have any responsibility to do anything but get you and your family out of there. Escape should be the first thing you're looking for. Especially if, you're... I don't know what I would do for sure. I've been shot at and I've been shot. So I've been in these hectic situations. I was in the middle of a prison riot. I've always been scared and I've always somehow did what I was supposed to do. So courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the presence of fear and still forging ahead. That's why the presentation is called The Hammer and the Flame. It's about forging yourself, forging ahead, fighting through the fear and going in to something that's uncomfortable. And I'm telling you, bullets coming at you is very uncomfortable. But I'd like to think I would put the threat down, or I would attempt to put the threat down. It would depend on totality of circumstances. So it's going to be up to you. I'm not saying go be a coward. We need real men that will engage bad people. So what I'm saying is go ahead and engage. Engage, but you better be well trained. You need to know where you're shooting. You feel terrible if you're trying to shoot at a bad guy and you hit some girl, right? So the situation is just terrible to be in, but we're gonna find ourselves in increasingly worse situations. They have us in a pressure cooker, folks. And 20 years ago, without the pressure of a world war, without the pressure of psyop diseases being released, and megalomaniac control freaks that are as bad as they are today, there was still 30,000 homicides a year in this country. So what do you think there's going to be coming up? And they're trying to push it. What I'm seeing, though, okay, so I've been in gloom and doom. I've been on anger mode today. Let me back up a second and end the show with something positive, because I know I wasn't the most positive guy today. And this isn't always me, honestly. But I think those of you that have been listening to me understand that. They're really wanting to try to push a civil war, and they're just not getting their way. They're not getting what they want. They're not getting the spark to make that civil war. That tells me there's more humanity, more good people in this country than they thought, because they're not getting it. So they're sending out more psyops. They're sending out more false flags, anything to try to spark something. And they're still not getting it. So they're going to have to up the ante. That's probably what they're going to do. So just understand the end game is by 2030 what they want. Be prepared to see things. We're going to have busy skies. I have a feeling we're going to have busy skies. I see UAPs above where I live on clear nights all the time. All the time. So we're living in amazing times, and we're here at this point in time in history, and it is a beautiful time to be here. And I think we do have more good in this country by the fact that we're not engaging in some civil war. That's great. Let's keep that up. Let's keep some love up. I'm all about love, but I'm also about real. And sometimes kindness isn't always nice. Kindness doesn't always equal niceness. Okay? That's something to remember. Sometimes kindness can sound kind of mean. But anyway, man, I've rambled on long enough today. Until next time, folks, stay safe. Let me get on here. Stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Revolution